There you go. And here we are, New York Times again. And what's this? This is really important within the article too. Study of Dr. King's death finds no link to the FBI. So we're entering we're coming up to the last two sections that are in this first article. As you see, it's like full of stuff. It's full of it's a good way to get to know Stan Pottinger, and a good way to go forward. It's going to get crazy, the next ones, but this is extremely crazy in itself. Look. So in 1976, they're finding that there's no link to the FBI to Martin Luther King's death. And Ray is definitely, James Earl Ray is definitely the person who shot him and all of this. But in actual fact, we now know that the investigation that eventually, this investigation here that's happening, eventually gets signed off by who? Who decides that Martin Luther King and the FBI had nothing to do with Martin Luther King's assassination, but John Stanley Pottinger. So these are some of the biggest events. He's Watergate, Kent State Massacre, the standoff at Wounded Knee, the assassination of Martin Luther King. All goes to one guy to be the guy to sort out that job, the go-to guy, already formed. He's only been in government. He's only been working in the Nixon administration rather than government. I think you'd say that, in the Nixon administration for 6 years. He's only been there for 6 years, and he's now in charge. And he's a kid, relatively, to these guys. And he's in charge of some of the biggest things. And what do we know about Martin Luther King? Well, we know that Martin Luther King was targeted by such things as this. This is the infamous suicide letter, which tries to convince Martin Luther King to commit suicide. This was FBI at its best, trying to force someone who was not on their side to end their life so they didn't have to deal with them. And there's loads of memos on this. If you go within the article, all of what you're looking here and more, the sources are available within the article. Now, like on the newspaper site, you'd need a subscription or whatnot. But if you actually contact me, anybody listening, if you want to see that article and you don't want to look for all of this, tell me which article it is. I'll download it and send it to you. Because, you know, it's really important to understand what is being said and who's involved and where the source material is when you're coming across something like this. Because I want everybody to see how transparent this investigation is. And this is this document that's linked within the article about the suicide letter basically shows you all of the redacted and secret documents at the time showing that they were targeting Martin Luther King. Go on.
Sorry. So when you say suicide letter, you're actually referring to the letter trying to persuade him to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
So it's not. Yeah, it's not a suicide.
It's like a letter going commit suicide. Go on.
Yeah, no. Officially, you got to call that a suicide note. It's only a note. You don't class. It's not a letter because you don't put your address at the top.
You're not used to having suicide letters where it's go on. You might as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
people
don't love you that much.
Yeah.
Wow.
What are you? You're not even white, so it's not even worth it, is it? Oh.
I mean, being a martyr, it's not a bad deal.
You've had good innings, Martin. You've had good innings.
Think about it. Martin Martyr. You love it. It rings. Mark the Mark. But this is here. You can go and you can look through all of the documentation, the FBI and other agencies who were all collecting information. Look at the subject: Martin Luther King Jr. Security matters. Communist. They just can't stop themselves. They just can't.
The Russians.
Yeah, they were addicted back then.